And I have to say, Somali events are always the hardest ones to host because they're so well attended by the Somali community, and there are so many well-informed people sitting in the audience that it's an intimidating thing to do. So what I thought I'll do is I'll just give a very quick rundown. Obviously, everybody here has heard of our guest, but I thought I'll give a quick rundown, and then I'll ask a few questions and then open it out to the audience so that whoever would like to ask Mr. Aideed some question will get an opportunity. But here we have with us Mr. Aideed, who is the son of General Aideed, who's well known through films like Black Hawk Down and obviously more so through the events in Somalia. Mr. Aideed here was educated in the United States, went to Somalia in '93, I think, together with Operation Restore Hope, the US operation in Somalia. I think you went in as a translator. You didn't stay very long. I think after 2 weeks, the American, 3 weeks.
3 months.
Okay, 3 months. Okay, it's reported to. So after 3 months, you went back to the United States.
Yes.
My understanding is that there was some concern about your father, who was becoming subject to a manhunt by the Americans in Somalia. Then in 1995, the Americans and the UN left Somalia. In 1996, when your father died in a battle in Mogadishu, you went back and you took over the leadership of your father's clan. You inherited the position of interim president of Somalia, which was opposed by Ali Mahdi, who at the time was running the northern Mogadishu. In 1997, you went to a peace conference with Ali Mahdi and signed the Cairo Declaration, and as you say, as a sacrifice for peace and reconciliation, gave up your presidency. From what I hear, many of the Europeans and the Americans see you as one of the more reasonable, as they would say, warlords, somebody they can do business with. So you travel, you engage with the international community. You were one of the key people to supply the Americans with intelligence on the presence of Al-Qaeda and Islamists and alleged terrorists in Somalia, especially after 9/11. And maybe we can get back to that later, how valid this kind of information is. What else? When the Eldoret peace process happened, when the warlords got together in Kenya, you decided to join the peace talks. You became part of the government, the new government that was initially composed in Kenya and then moved into Somalia via Johor and Baidoa last year. And at the same time in Somalia, the Sharia courts made a lot of progress. By mid-last year, vast parts of central and southern Somalia were under the control of the Sharia courts, opposing the government that you were involved with. You were then, I would say, one of the key people who called for the Ethiopians and for Ethiopian troops to come into Somalia to help the interim government move into Mogadishu from Baidoa and to overthrow the Sharia courts, which is what happened in late December and January. There were battles between the fighters of the Sharia courts and the Ethiopian troops. Eventually, the Sharia courts were defeated or the fighters were driven underground. The government that you were part of moved into Mogadishu, where it is now. A big battle took place in late March. There's an insurgency started, an insurgency started against the new government. A big battle took place in late March. And in April, you decided to move to Eritrea, Ethiopia's arch enemy. You changed. You said it was a genocide that was going on in Somalia under Ethiopian occupation. You started calling for the Ethiopian troops to leave and said if they don't leave, they're going to face an all-out war. You are now based in Eritrea, in Asmara, if I understand it right, and you'll have the opportunity to correct me just now if any of what I say is wrong. But you're based in Asmara, where you're talking to the leaders of the Sharia courts. And that is the situation at the moment, the Sharia court leaders that you, of course, very much opposed not too long ago. And I think this is my first question. Currently in Somalia, there is a big peace and reconciliation conference going on. Over 1,000 elders, clan members have been invited by the new interim government into Mogadishu for a period of, I think, 45 days to try and reconcile. And this conference is going on as we speak, as we sit here, and you have come to London. You say, and I interviewed this morning for Al Jazeera, you say reconciliation and peace is on top of your agenda. Why are you here in London when that big peace and reconciliation conference is going on in Mogadishu?
Thank you, Juliana, for giving me the opportunity. Thanks for the audience, for the club. I'm obliged to have this opportunity to speak to the Somalis as well as people in London, discuss the way forward on Somalia. The problem of Somalia originated from the collapse of the state, the split of the founders, of the leaders of Somalia, which includes the current president, Abdullah Yusuf Ahmed, my father, generation, split when I was 7 years old. And from that split, we never recovered. That happened early '69 when the President Ali Sharmarke was assassinated. And the constitution was suspended, and the last democracy in Somalia was that time. Also, there was the war with Ethiopia, '77, which the Somali state, also part of it, caused the collapse, the dissemination of the dictator and its equipment, one of the largest army in Africa. The 16 years civil war is another component, and the part which I played, although people call, quote unquote, you're a warlord. For me, I came in when there was no war. There was reconciliation, there was government actually. And my experience as a veteran from the Marine, who participated in many operations in Europe, studied very well in the US, know very well my country, and I Restore Hope operation 90 days. I was part of the 1st Division, not as a translator, but part of the division which I worked in Kuwait, Liberation, the division I worked 10 years as a veteran. And I advised my country, US, at that time, and understood and learned way forward of what my people need. So the greatest information I've received my 11 years as a leader, through reconciliation. My strength come through reconciliation. The sub-clan conflict is a complex nature, and it's only the Somalis who can understand. That's why the UNISOM 1 and 2 fail. That's why the Ethiopians are failing. That's why imposed solution from external actors will never work in Somalia. And we were the best professionals who came into Somalia. 35 countries, including European Union countries, failed. Why? $7 billion. Because we recommended to late Bush and we recommended to Clinton, you cannot solve the problem of Somalia by military solution. It was a recommendation written by General Johnson, 4-star general, which I served. Let the Somalis solve their problem, and we helped that time. The same message I've told, come help the Somalis. The crisis, the government was not controlling Mbeidoa, only help to relocate in the capital, where the population was demanding, because the government failed to airlift to the capital from Nairobi after we established. I went, unlike the President, the Prime Minister, unlike the Parliament, I went directly to the capital. And my intention was to assist, as the former president, as a person who negotiated many peace processes, that the sub-clan conflict shortcut is through reconciliation, through direct engagement of the actors. If you evade the actors, you will not succeed. My 11 years success, why I can walk, nobody will bomb my house, my office. Nobody bombed 11 years the Villa Somalia. the State House, which I rebuilt it as of, when I was president, which I turned it over with all its equipment. The resources that the TFG now using did not come from the government, did not come from foreign countries. It was the resource which I was entrusted.
Can I just say the TFG is the transitional federal government,
yes,
the
it was
interim
entrusted
government.
with me when I was president. I kept 11 years with the resources of the Somali community, which elected me that time, and I turned it over the state president, the state prime minister, and the state parliament. That mission, it was a target for me. Unlike the internal sub-clan differences, unlike the external, the Ethiopian invasion did not start in December last year. It started exactly 7 days when I was the president. My father died. In August 7th, 1996, they invaded Gedo region. The current defense minister, General Abdullah, was the commander of the eastern side. He did 13 operations. He fell in Gedo. That's one region from SNF, sub-clan, Darod Marihan, mainly. We discussed this with the intervention of Rodolph Decker from Germany and President Museveni. Ethiopian officials came in. I was the president at that time, and we discussed. We said no military solution for this region. The difference is that the chairman of SNF and his deputy have, you cannot interfere and impose one against the other with the same sub-clan. General Umar Haji was the chairman. His deputies, they had a difference. So that time General Umar Haji went with Ethiopia to impose his. Later on, with the reconciliation, he was part of the SRC, the party which I was co-chairman. So from that time I told Somalia, your neighbor, we have a historical war, 64-77 war. There is sensitivity. We removed the dictatorship system. The state of Somalia was never instituted from 1960. There was no taxation. There was no institution of democracy in Somalia. There was, from the split of the founders up to now, we are healing the old generation. The current president generation, healing that is still going at the sub-clan level, at the political level. The high elite, after World War II, which European Union have put in when the Italians withdrew. That conflict, Somalia has not finished yet. My experience last 11 years. It requires time, slow process. Let the Somalis solve their own problems. Imposing leaders will not solve the problem. Let the Somalis elect who they feel comfortable, or the parliamentary sub-clan majority who can run the affairs of the state, and who they say leave must leave. This is my vision. And that's why I resigned it. I control more states. I had more taxation, more military equipment. I resigned it in 19, more stability than this TFG. This TFG don't even have 2% of the power it had the when I was president. Ethiopia withdrew, listen to me, and we reconciled the two groups, and they joined the peace process. And now Gedo is stable. That's why military solution, from my experience, I learned from General Joseph. I learned from the Marines. I learned from that experience, that imposing. I learned from the experience as my father being a military man, in charge of the, and grew up in military camps, that Somali culture is very sensitive to military. That's why they remove their own and destroy military camps, removed all the equipment from the Somali officers. You have a state which is a laissez-faire system. It's anarchy at one point or other, but slowly coming back its own. So Ethiopia is a communist country. EPDRF is Chinese communism, the ideology. Ethiopia and Eritrea both. For us, we removed our own socialist, communist. We are a democratic society, sub-clan. So the two cannot work together.
But it's nonetheless a U-turn, because in January this year you went on record saying that the Ethiopians, that you were grateful to the
Yes.
Ethiopians because they're friends and neighbors
Because the
who were
ICU
helping you. We're
Yes.
even calling for the border between Somalia and
Yes,
Ethiopia
border
to be
open integration.
opened and
Yes.
integration,
Yes.
whereas now you've gone on record saying the
Yes,
Ethiopians
that's the
are...
principle, I believe, as a Pan-Africanist.
So it's a U-turn.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm just wondering what caused you to change
the
your
cause was
opinion
the
so
military solution. I
dramatically?
opposed the ICU military solution. ICU never touched the State House, the area controlled in Mogadishu for 11
That's
years.
the Union of Islamic
Yes.
Courts.
The equipment, more equipment than the ICU had was under my control, which I turned over to the government. So ICU is reasonable people, you can talk to them. I've talked to both chairmen, the Executive Council and the other. Do not touch the agreement we made in Nairobi. This will be turned over. There is 77 infrastructures, government buildings, will be turned over to the government. And they did. They never came in and said, we are the government. They never imposed on this. They never touched our military equipment. They never touched documentation. 50 years of radio, TV, and the documentation is there. Not one paper missing from Italy till now. So the ICU was, in fact, did the opposite. They supplied my militia money and food. They've reconstructed part of the State House. They sent engineers. They reconstructed the port and airport. So, and the floods which we came in, they did. And I advised them. I went to Mogadishu, as I told you. I didn't go to Johor. I didn't go to Baidoa. I went to Mogadishu. And the Sharia court was present since UNISOM. Even when we came in as the UNITAF 1992, the Sharia court is part of the component of Somali culture. The inheritance, the Somalis in diaspora, they do a lot of services. When the state disappeared, they do a lot of local work.
Well, I mean, this
So
is
there's
the
a
thing.
positive
I think
component.
there is a U-turn there
Yes.
as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Because you were somebody who was very outspokenly
Yes.
opposed to the role of the Islamic courts as well, the ICU or
Yes.
UIC.
The legitimacy is the institution we have
Supported
created.
again the Ethiopian troops
Yes.
coming in.
Yes.
So that's another U-turn?
It's not a
Because
U-turn.
now you're in
The
Asmara.
direction we are heading is like campus method. I'm a principal leader, principal centered. The process started a long time ago, how to bring back the collapse of state. So as I believe it will take many governments to bring back Somali Republic. So we have only a work, the TFG, the other processes we went before, and we have to concentrate doing that work and not get into other problems and go back the wheel where we already passed. So going back to factionalization, as the Ethiopians now are doing, rearming factions, destroying the institution of the TFG, bringing ex-warlords back, making them governors, making them police chiefs. The TFG selected chief of staff, police, institution buildings from the UN. All that has been destroyed now. So the rearming of Somalia, the military takeover, the destruction of schools, houses, the genocide, more than 500,000 being run out of their houses, this will not work. This is pure military work from the Chinese communist methods, which they are using inside Ethiopia. But Somalia is different. Somalis will not accept the 2 million diaspora, including those who are in London. And the one is, I have worked with them last 11 years as a leader. I know they will not accept. They will work together, their finances, their social, political, economic, to fight this imposition of martial law under Ethiopian general. The president is not a president, prime minister, there is not one ministry working. So what is the good if Ethiopia said we will help you and the help finished? And as acting president, January 22nd, we announced the chief of the military operation of Ethiopia, the foreign minister, Siyum Masfin, came to Mogadishu. As acting president and prime minister, both of them, they were out, the speaker of the parliament, we announced in Mogadishu that the Ethiopian mission is finished. They are leaving from Somalia. They withdraw from Kismayo. They withdraw from Central Region. They were going back. Why they had to take the president and prime minister to Addis Ababa in January 31st and impose a hidden agenda, the destruction of Mogadishu, which happened in February, March, April, and the continuation of destruction. This is a new agenda. This is not the peace process. And the general in charge now in Ethiopia is liaison between the Prime Minister and the President. They are removing the speaker. They don't have that power to use money from the port to corrupt the parliament and remove the speaker. It's illegal. This is a peace process. The speaker comes from Digli Mirifle. 61 MPs are there. 9 members of parliament they have. The Hawiye also has Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister and 61 MPs. The President comes from Darod. So this unity of process, which was sub-clan selected, we are not elected, which the most of the factions are disarming and join the peace process, and all the agreement, transitional charter implementation toward the election 2009 is destroyed. ICU is a small component in Somalia, small number, and most of them are civil society.
Just one last question on the Ethiopians. You have been in exile in Ethiopia for a good few years, I understand. So bearing in mind that you have been in exile in Ethiopia, did Ethiopia's agenda in Somalia really come as a surprise to you then?
No. Ethiopia never made secret. No, previous regimes is in the records in the foreign ministry in Somalia. As I told you, I grew up in the military, so I know this. They have port problem historically. They are landlocked because of the war of Eritrea, but they can have the port through institution. First, the institution Somalia must come, and then we can provide the use of port like Uganda is using Mombasa or Tanzania port. But this can come after the Somali Republic is reinstituted, not now. Who will deal with it? Where the legitimacy of use the port will come? This is the problem. So we are saying the regime in Addis do not use, we will not interfere in their country, but do not come here and run the affairs of the transitional federal government. Do not create reshuffles. Do not impose the Prime Minister and the President because they do not have army and security. The President comes from Puntland. He's not from South Central area. And the Prime Minister is civil society. He's not from a politician from the Somali politics. So both of them do not have the history what has happened from South Muduk to Kismayo. Do you understand? I'm the party chairman, where the president belonged to it, and Mohamed Farah, which took the position of the Prime Minister come, and I support it. The key is this very fragile institution which was created and negotiated 2.5 years and 11 years of peace processes is the first light infant came in, first democratic sub-clan, where you have 61 MPs for each sub-clan, 4 sub-clans, and the 5th clan, which are minorities, have 31 MPs. Let's use this as the base for discussing and preparing Somalia peacefully, and do not bring into military rule into Somalia back and dictatorship. This is what I oppose Ethiopia. And that's why I oppose the President and Prime Minister said no. As a Deputy Prime Minister on political security, this will end your leadership. The Somalis will oppose you, and I know where that will end. The President will run to his family in Puntland, and the Prime Minister civil society will go and run. And otherwise will be killed. And that's what is happening now. 2 or 3 times already attempted in Mogadishu, in Baidoa also. So clan fighting, at the end of it, the top leaders will lose. And my experience is you never win the clan, sub-clan fighting. The President Ali Shamarka was killed. Siad Barre died in Nigeria. My father died. So more than 47 years of independence, we have top 3 presidents out. Who could have brought peace and stability in the country? And Yusuf now has been attempted twice in his life. And already one very close in Baidoa. I was there when they bombed him. So we cannot afford killing top leadership in Somalia, killing the technocrats. Sub-clan is a very deadly war. We already had. So that's why we bring Yusuf to the State House. That's why Hawiye elders and leaders talked to him, said, we will not come, be the president, do your role. But when you have generals Ethiopian saying, no, factions must come, the chief of staff must be fired, Hussein Aideed must remove the Minister of Interior. The police chief must be out because they are intellectuals. They know they will build police security institution with the UN. We don't want. We want our team to be our presence there. This is the internal information I know of. I said no, I will not accept this. When I'm saying that, Ethiopians were very close friends. I discussed with them in Gedo and Baidoa in 1999. The whole army came in. We fought in Baidoa together. Then we sit together. President Carter intervened. Other regions intervened. We sit together. We set agreement. They took their army back. The SRC was formed. The SRC was SNA, and those opposing who are backed by Ethiopia. And Ethiopia was told, stop the armed weapons given to this. So this argument, I had it the last 11 years. And every time I went to Addis, agree, stopped, and negotiated. But this time, because of small component, Shabab or whatever they are, Somalia is bigger. This small component, the institution, once you have police, security, you have the taxation, Somali people are enough. The diaspora can tell them each one, what are you doing? Do positive things. And those elements who are weak at the sub-clan level deal with it. Like the Hawiye leaders told the suspect of the 6 members, 2 of them are Somalis. Both the Darod clan from Kismayo area told Hassan Turki out. And why was not destroyed Kismayo? Same thing, the Hawiye clan told Hassan Dahra was out. And the other gentleman, Aero, they went peacefully. So this is, the sub-clan can do it. The warlords were told out, who were causing the problem in Mogadishu, who took money from the CIA and others and started assassinating people in Mogadishu. That's another violation. 6 million they took. This is what created the ICU. Population supported ICU to stop the killing of 72 members. Assassination, Somalis. So when the hunt goes on inside the country of religious leaders, what will you have? Israel also was involved. Because of Paradise, 3 foreign suspects who transitionally came to Somalia, Sang Al-Salim Nahyan, who is Comoran, is the 6th least suspect in Somalia. They escaped. It's not a Somali, it's a Comoran. Al-Sudani is from Sudan. And Fasul is a Kenyan. So how, none of them were captured. So how you destroying whole population, 500,000 from Mogadishu, schools, 35 universities destroyed. 135 schools destroyed. 9 mosques are with Ethiopian troops sleeping and using as a restroom. It's impossible. This is a religious area. Somalia is very old culture. They will not accept such a violation from a foreign neighboring army whom have themselves 6 million Somalis in the largest federal state inside Ethiopia. This is unlike Ethiopia. This is not the culture of Ethiopia.
I would like to talk about the insurgency that's going on at the moment, because there are different interpretations, obviously.
Yes.
There are insurgents who are the former fighter of the Sharia courts. There are insurgents increasingly, from what I understand, who are members of the Hawiye clan, who are fighting the interim government. Can you explain a little bit more what the causes of the insurgency are and who the insurgents are?
The insurgents basically will increase with time as the Ethiopians stay longer. It's a natural process where the Somali society feels these occupiers are threatening the business. Somalia is one of the best economic system, better than 31 years of governance. The World Bank said Somalis have achieved last 11 years. The study they have done. In Dubai, they are UAE, they are export. After Iran, we are number 2, their commerce. Up to South Africa is the Somali supplying. Even Ethiopia, the 2000, is the Somali supplying. Kenya. So this, it was a positive part. The reconstruction of the capital happened by private sector. The communication, all that is a positive part. Democratization of Africa, fighting AIDS, fighting poverty is a good part. Even the UN told us not to touch that institution, the economic and the private sector. Now that has been destroyed. So the businessmen who lost their equipment, what they will do, you think? And they have a lot of money. They will fund insurgents to remove the Ethiopian generals in Mogadishu, in Kismayo, in Baidoa. So this is what I'm telling you, the direction is wrong. We are going. And that the capacity of the TFG will not survive. Actually, already is destroyed heavily. If we do not turn the flight plan back to its original, you will have the Somalis diaspora and the Somalis in Somalia together, including Somaliland, to fight this threatening enemy who is trying to occupy and destroy life and peace in the capital. And the capital is the head. Everybody lives in the capital. This is the economic capital. It's a very old capital again. It influences, controls the economy in Kenya, economy in Addis Ababa. It's a trading, Mogadishu is very trading business. They are stronger than even, than any I've seen it, the dynamics they're doing. So they can participate and use this power for the reconstruction. But if they become our enemy, there is no government can withstand, including this TFG, and there is no foreign force that can fight against these insurgents which come in. That's why the peace process is evading the stakeholders. I believe the parliament in Asmara, free parliament, I'm not based. I went there to say, stop. I will deal with the negotiation between you and the government to restore the original TFG, Transitional Federal Institution. It's composed speaker and the parliament, 275 members of all sub-clans present. The president and the prime minister, his 3 deputies, and cabinet member of 31 ministries, to run the government affairs through the parliamentary check and balance, which is written in the transitional charter. We are transitional to prepare election. We cannot afford to part of us join Ethiopia and part of us join Eritrea, and the proxy war between Ethiopia and Eritrea fought in Somalia. So that's why, as a friend, Pan-Africanist leader, I went to Afwerki. I said, you've been into Somalia 29 years as a rebel against Mengistu. Meles Zenawi was 14 years in Mogadishu. They both used Somali taxpayers to be in power. Now they are using to split the very fragile institution which came in a very difficult negotiation. The ICU made a mistake, but they left from Mogadishu with the elders. Nobody fought in Mogadishu. It was only 7 kilometers around Baidoa, which we fought. So the rest, ICU left. They dismantled their institution. They announced and they left. So what I'm trying to say is, it cannot magnetize and come up all hidden agendas and destroy Somali Republic. Its economy, its social, its capacity. It naturally developed. It's not factionally oriented. It is a way of the society which is trying to bring back the state back. And they cooperate with us. The president don't have budget. The prime minister don't have it. We don't have it. It's the people who are giving the money. Even today, the 3,000 police is the people paying the money. Businessmen paying. There's no foreign aid coming from Europe. You know that. There's a requirement. And we don't have that requirements we cannot meet. European Union requirements to have our police and our army. We don't have this today. Our prime minister cannot, our cabinet did not have enough, and the UN enough convinced level that will help.
Can I ask you a little bit more about your own position? Because you, you were made Deputy Prime Minister in Somalia, you were made Interior Minister and Minister for Labour, and you left for Eritrea in April, and in May, President Abdullahi Yusuf announced that you are no longer Deputy Prime Minister of Somalia. You yourself say that you still are Deputy Prime Minister. What, in your view, is the position with that?
I'm still the Deputy Prime Minister. He's the Minister. I have two positions. Deputy Prime Minister it can be removed through the parliament. We have a parliamentary system. I'm a member of parliament. The parliaments elected the proposal of the peace process. The prime minister and 3 deputies are called the council of the prime minister. And each one has 8 ministries, 9 ministries under it. So for me, I was political and security. So all the ministries of security and politics are under me, like foreign ministry, the planning, the defense, police, the interior. So it requires a parliamentary motion to take to the parliament. I'm also the head of the 61 MPs. Remember, the prime minister comes from civil society. I'm also the party chairman of the president. So president cannot remove me. The SRRC, which president also belongs, Puntland belong, and 17 factions in the south belong, are called Somali Reconciliation Restoration Council. And I was the vice chairman of the peace process. And the whole resource which they're using from South Muduk, Gilgudud, this area, USC area, which liberated from Siad Barre last 17 years, it is inherited from me as the president when I resigned. So all this is me who bring Yusuf in, not the opposite. But the objective is to have the institution. And that's what we made an agreement with Ethiopia when we, in 1999, we told them, remove Baidoa, no military solution. Your team, we will create SRC, we will meet TNG, another government which was created in Djibouti. We went to African Union, Lusaka, in 2001, which we signed no preconditionality principle. That means we, neither future Somalis nor the past, can any government say we cannot meet opposition. So we were opposition that time, SRC. The former president, Abdul Qasim Hassan, we signed it together. I was representing the SRC council to sit in Nairobi and negotiate without preconditions, without using force to overthrow the government which was created in Djibouti. And that is the way we came in. Equal, all-inclusive government, and the process was weak. Again, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Kenya interfered. Instead of finishing the reconciliation, which now is being told to make in Mogadishu, they have quickly went to regime building. Again, each country tried to put members which they supported in the parliament. So that's why the 12% women are not in the parliament. There is only 8% sitting in the parliament. So there is 4% missing, according to the charter. So there is many things wrong, but we could solve that, we told, inside Somalia after we go to Mogadishu. That's why I turned over to the government I took to Mogadishu in January, and we announced Ethiopia together to leave. So why they reversed? I went to the Tunisia to report the state situation. Mr. Venice is from Scotland. He's in charge, Under Secretary of Security. I reported to 22 Somali's member Arab League, Ministry of Interior Arab League meeting. I reported the situation of Somalia under the UN as official leader, representing the state of Somalia. So Ethiopians announced officially 22 January they must leave from Somali Republic. And they withdrew. African Union is supposed to come. It is them presence blocking. And that is what happened. Ugandan who came in, President Museveni came in, and the Ugandans are being blocked by the Ethiopians. And good example is the weapons turned over to the Ugandan last 3 months. Ethiopians told turn over to the president clan to attack Ismail, another Darod clan. That is exactly what happened. UNISOM 2, the mistake the UN made, the Belgian government. They disarmed Omar Jess, took his weapons and gave it to General Morgan, another Darod, and the civil war started and the collapse of the UNISOM. Same thing is happening. President Museveni last week went to Meles Zenawi, said you made a mistake. Why you took the weapons Somalis voluntarily turned over? You're supposed to do disarmament. Why you are giving to arm one faction against another? So factionalization is the problem, which Ethiopian policy is to dismantle state institutions they don't want. And that's the challenge I had as a president, as a leader of the party, And my vision today is we have to negotiate because they are big stakeholders, 2,000 kilometers, 6 million Somalis under them, Ogaden, and they need ports. The security of Ethiopia and the good relations is very important. They are first partner because the largest border is Ethiopia. So 1993 in Cairo, the international community gave the mandate, IGAD. The IGAD, quote unquote, you are talking about is Ethiopia. Because we are their stomach, their toughest point. 6 million Somalis are the other side. We can destabilize them easily. They can destabilize us.
One last question before I open it out to everybody.
Yes.
Is you're now here in London, you're based in Asmara, and you still have your connections to Mogadishu.
Yes.
What are you trying to achieve? How do you see your future role?
The proposal I brought here to the contact group, to the international community, the Somali diaspora here, to the leaders in Asmara as well as in the president, which his emissaries, I had a meeting, he sent 2 of them in Dubai the day before yesterday, is to solve the problem. Because Ethiopia has a problem now, a serious problem, which they didn't predict it. So what we needed is, if we do not come up a leadership of solving this problem, the instability caused already Somalia, and the collapse and instability going on now in Mogadishu will spread a higher conflict in the Horn of Africa and the rearmament of the region. Up to now, there is a chance because it agreed, President Afwerki, to allow the Somalis to decide their own. And he agreed the proposal I took to him, the difference that he has, the war between Ethiopia and Eritrea, not to be taken and to give chance to the Somali institution building, peace process to revive. So the leaders over there are ready to come. A neutral place without Ethiopian force in Mogadishu must be withdrawn. The African Union and the UN can provide security. And my proposal is that all of us, we go, including the Somali diaspora, the civil society members, and discuss the way forward, how to save the country and the institution, which remain 2 years, its mandate, August 2009, the election we're supposed to have, the federal constitutional convention supposed to be happening, all that we failed. So there is actually, according to the charter, as of February, the government failed to do what the charter ordered. The half term we're supposed to bring a constitutional, a permanent constitution, we must bring it. So our federal minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, Abdullah Ismail, failed to do that. So the government already do not exist officially as of February, because the charter says if the Prime Minister and the cabinet does not come up, they have to dissolve automatically and go back to the parliament, either request more time or build a new government. That was the agreement of the peace process. So as of February, there is no official government. It is, according to the charter. And there is a serious violation of the charter that need to be discussed and repaired. So my proposal is bring the original TFG back, the speaker, the members of parliament. These are ambassadors. For example, the Asmara sitting is the former ambassador of Italy, and who was the chairman of the peace process. I was representing SRC. He was the chairman representing civil society, Sharif Salah. And he was the last ambassador when the government of Siad Barre was collapsing in London, in UK. These are people before I born were running Somali state. They know the problem where it is. I am also the second vice chairman, and the TNG from Hassan Abshir, he is a minister of fishing, is with the Mogadishu people. So majority of us already, in the parliament, we reject the Ethiopian, as we have done it. So what we need is Ethiopia to give a good exit, African Union to come in, Mogadishu at least, withdrawal first must be in stages, because we do not want a void. First Mogadishu, insurgency must declare cessation hostility. So the ICU leaders will come and sign. Now we have that agreement in Asmara, but I need to bring it into Mogadishu, President and Prime Minister, and sign the cessation hostility. Because the rest of us, we are members of the government, we sign the cessation hostility under the international community. I mean, between the Somalis. Also, the international community signed cessation hostility not to provide weapons and money to one group against another. The UN Resolution 733 was violated because if you give money to the President and Prime Minister, you are supporting one faction. If you give money and weapons to the Speaker and the ICU, it's another problem. So we need to prevent this conflict. And also the reaction of the big business people in Mogadishu and the clans and the Mogadishu infrastructure, which was destroyed, who are reacting. 500,000 outside the capital. So humanitarian disaster there is. So this can only be solved, my proposal here was, through dialogue, and directly all stakeholders must come to a conference. If Mogadishu does not come, we must have a neutral place, like in England or Sweden, a place where everybody can go. Or in Makkah, King Abdullah, like President Museveni, last Eagle meeting, President of Djibouti said Saudi Arabia should be a good place to meet. Also, Prime Minister Brody proposed the African Union in January to have all conference that they will finance, and they are ready to pay reconstruction money, 150 million, and the African Union 15 million, if Rome held the conference. And as you know, Rome and Sweden are co-chairmans for the European Union, the reinstitution and reconstruction of Somalia. They have the blueprint, working with us how to, but everything frozen now, the government don't have money, and everything of institution is frozen. So we need to go back to the original charter, solve the problem, the 275 back, then as an entity do what we're supposed to do. The 6 documents, the federal charter, the election preparation, the foreign relations, all the embassies we have to reclaim, the making of the district administration and regional, the preparation of the federal, because Somalia is going that way, all that, then call after the Somaliland, because they have their own election, their own democracy, and again discuss way forward on the future election and future unity of Somalia. So this process is heavily damaged by Ethiopians remaining February 4th and coming new agenda and destroying the capital and remaining. That is the problem. So, and they are themselves the problem. If we do not help them to solve the problem, this situation, I myself as a former Marine, is not easy to solve. It will go worst. So that's why I came as intervention. And you saw the contact group we just met, said we run out of option. There's no options. Unless we create the leaders, create option. And so as a leader, I am appealing to and discussing the Somali diaspora, who had a meeting also here, a very important component. And in Asmara we will meet a conference, pre-conference agenda in 1st of September. The ICU also, they are correcting their mistakes, what they have done, and they agreed they had made mistakes. So we expect them, they had a conference in Qatar, and they had a conference in Asmara. We expect them to come in the table and negotiate with no preconditionality principle, means no preconditions, and join the peace process, which is the mother for everybody. Peaceful Somali, democratic, and the solution must come from Somalis. Ethiopians cannot provide, Kenyans cannot provide, Europeans cannot provide. It must come, and what we agree and sign in front of international community, we must implement. If the president breaks, he must be, like it happened in Rwanda, Burundi, he must pay. If the prime minister breaks, if I break, we must pay through legal means. But we cannot afford going back to factionalization, and that's what I oppose. I turned in my 3,500 mines in this State House warehouse. 6 million ammunitions are turned over. The tanks, artillery, I turned over to the government and to the Amazon. I am the only one turning over, and the Hawi is saying, why you are doing? The Darod from Puntland did not turn over their tanks and weapons. The Somaliland did not turn them. I said, we have a bigger responsibility. We are the ones who removed Siad Barre. We have to compromise more to unite Somalia. That's why a Darod leader, we give the election, we bring Yusuf to end the conflict Darod-Hawi. But if the president is allowed to attack as a faction to his Darod brothers in Kismayo, he will lose. And that's what Ethiopians are doing. Indirectly, they're destroying him. And that is what I'm saying no. Because I have more experience than him. I dealt with Ethiopia directly. I negotiated. And I also discussed with them Somalia can have peace when it's equal. Cannot have a peace when Somalia interest is destroyed and their interest taken care of. So this is what my main mission is. Directly engage Addis, directly engage IGAD countries, also our brother in Asmara, Eritrea, and discuss to prevent war, another war in the Horn of Africa.
Okay, well, you've come here to talk to the diaspora. There's a lot of diaspora and interested parties in the House. How do we do it with the mic? Are you going to... okay, and how long do... So, yeah, fine. Okay, well, questions. Why don't you start over there? And if you can just quickly introduce yourself, and maybe if we can stick to questions rather than statements that some people sometimes come with, and make the whole thing fairly brief so that everybody gets to talk.
Yes, thank you for a very interesting talk. My name's Admas Hattis-Lassi. I'm a freelance documentary photographer. I was just interested, given your kind of obviously quite colourful past and your history as a Marine and presumably US citizen, what is your current working relationship with the US government in the role that you have? And do you think that this relationship would be an obstacle to your aims to play an important role in Somalia's future politically?
My relation with the US has been positive. I was a child when I went to the US, and I have an excellent relationship with the US government, excellent relationship with the US people. And that part is contributing not only to Somalia, but I contributed the last 11 years. The African Union and the relations of the US, because I understand more than the leaders in Africa running, whom do not understand the institution. So I played a very important role in the African Union countries to solve the problems that exist, because US institutional system is still African culture. They do not understand, and the US institution system need to learn them. So as a bridge, I played the understanding between Ethiopia and the US. Even now I'm playing a very good role with the Ethiopia and Eritrea. I mean Eritrea and the US. The Rwanda, Burundi, all the Pan-African countries. We are working how to solve the problem of 800 million Africans democratically, to remove the problem of presidents. The African main problem under the UN is one-man ruling. Africa are tribes. They need more parliamentary system like the UK. Is more viable, and the majority party that the tribes support can run. But one leader just running and coming back and running and bringing his own group to run, it will not work. So this is the problem come from colonial again. So this is very important, the institutionalization, democratization of Africa. This part I can play an important role, and that's what I did by resigning Cairo Agreement. But even now saying I'm not interested in the Deputy Prime Minister, I'm interested in institution which can work. Second time I'm offering my own to the Asmara group and the Mogadishu group, saying come together, let's do peace for what our people, our country need. Otherwise we will not deliver what the IGAD wants us to do. We cannot deliver the international community what they want to us. The Somali diaspora, there is a lot of pressure on the Somali community now, because the Somalis are saying it's enough, this war. We want solution, the leaders must come. Any leader that didn't come, like the warlords happening in Mogadishu. If the ICU create a problem, they will tell out. The Somalis today are different from the Somalis when I came to power. So the Somalis, I want good housing, good life. They don't want to see AK-47. The militia also, who were young at that time, now they are 35, they have wife, they have kids. They want decentralization. Somalia is a very rich state. They want the institution can deliver the assistance needed, like it happened in Rwanda, it happened in Burundi, it happened in Congo. But intervention of military kills. Military do not solve problem. And this is what we're trying to avoid. Somalia is a very fragile, very sensitive people, and last 16 years, they want democracy and peace.
Question in the front?
My name is Mohamed Hussein.
Yes.
People who know you, they find your political position inconsistent. Having said that, one thing you are consistent, you always say there is al-Qaeda in Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still believe there are al-Qaeda in Somalia? If it's yes, what evidence do you have on how you will deal with it? If it's no, what made you change your opinion?
As a president and as a former Marine and as a leader last 11 years in the Horn of Africa, I have enough information to know the transitional problem in the Horn of Africa presence. So as a Minister of Interior also, I have more information than anybody for the country as a Deputy Prime Minister of Security. So we know the Al-Qaeda problem of Horn of Africa as Horn of African leaders in the African Union, in the IGAD. Al-Qaeda cells are present in the African Union. They are present in Somalia, they are present in Ethiopia, they are present in Kenya, they are present everywhere. They are present here in London. But what we need is how to solve this phenomena internationally. They are present inside the US. So what we need is how to solve this. The world was not ready, this phenomena, how we can solve the problem at the blueprint from Somali side, not the blueprint from the US, from England, from Europe. This is the difference. My proposal was, we Africans have resources, we have all culture, we can come up. And that's what I've written myself the proposal, but President Museveni submitted when Bush came into Africa tour, a 3-day visit in Uganda. As the oldest leader, after Moi, Museveni is the oldest. And remember, when the peace process break, is the one who bring the 6 IGAD and the Somalis together. So Al-Qaeda is a phenomena out of control, and it requires that evil process a way to solve. Islam is not Al-Qaeda. Islam is peace. And the Somalis can contribute to this peace through, and those who are present individually will point out. If they come and run from Kenya to the border to Somalia because there is no state, there is no airport control, that is transition. If he does terrorize US Embassy in Nairobi and transits through Somalia, escapes, and there is no institution, check and balance, we take responsibility as the leaders. Although the institution is not there, as a party, we have the responsibility to cooperate the international UN anti-terrorist program. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible. Otherwise, a missile will come from the sea and shoot like it is happening in Yemen. Countries who have government, presidents, are being shut down, Al-Qaeda, because the governments cannot control Al-Qaeda in their country. So Somalia, which doesn't have a state, what it takes is nothing. So what we need is to engage the world, and I believe the world has shown a lot resistance on Somalia, soft spot they have. That's why they are in Djibouti. That's why they are controlling our sea. We don't have a navy. There is no state. So Al-Qaeda cells, we the Somalis cannot control. If they are, how long they're going to stay? Because there is no state. We cannot say they are and they are not. So 6 suspects, the international community gave warrant under the UN. Executive order by President Bush. 129 countries. Those suspects, if they are inside Somalia, at the sub-clan level, at the party level, at the government level, we must hand over. If we cannot hand over, we must tell, he's in that house, do what you have to do. We don't have the capacity to take to court. But at this moment, we told, please, let's do institution, let's negotiate, let's remove the missiles in Somalia. When Paradise Hotel was attacked, the ground-to-air missiles, including our party, I have turned it over. For what? Why I'm turning over? So there is no suspicion. Each serial number was taken to the original factory, and it was clarified that it did not come the missile which was used against the Israeli airplane from Somalia. But you need practical. So I had to cooperate so the peace process can go on. So this kind of practical cooperation is required. In the absence of state, many questions cannot be solved. So when I'm saying the Al-Qaeda members and the transitional terrorist is running over the Horn of Africa, neither Ethiopia government nor Somalia can control, but we must say we need help to solve this problem. And we need help by creating institutions, by creating government, and Somalis solving their own problem.
One question over there.
I don't have a mic, but
Yes.
My name is Alexander Lester, and I'm a businessman.
Yes.
And I wonder if His Excellency would care to comment on the natural resources potential of the Republic, and in particular, the rights granted to the mining companies in Puntland recently.
I believe the cabinet has prepared a document which experts from the UN has helped, and from South Africa. The document, it talks about mineral, oil, whatever Somalia has, but it has not passed the parliament. And the transitional government do not have the power. Elected government have the power to deal. So there is nothing at this moment going on that we are capable of asking companies to come in and mine Puntland because we're still in the reconstitution of Somalia. After the state comes and it's legal and it's capacity building, then we can do it. So we are in transition, and after elected government, I believe legally our government can engage, because we do not have the rights in the transitional charter to sign treaties, to sign companies to do oil and minerals. And that's why President Puntland and our Prime Minister had a conflict. We negotiated, and we blocked everything. And the President played a very good role to stop that, because a region who comes under the federal government cannot make contracts. Australian companies to mine Puntland is the central government power, and that mineral belongs to the 2 million Somalis outside, and the 7,900,000 inside Somalia, and we still did not how to share the resources were not written in the permanent charter. Now what we are using is the 60 charter and the charter of the transition, which is very limited, 70 articles, which limit us to prepare election, to prepare peace, disarmament, and work slowly the institution of the Somali security components, police, and all that under the UN and regional administration to prepare election, and then call Somaliland to negotiation, how the federal will be, what type of federal will be. So all that process will go after we successfully solve the problem, current political problem.
Gentleman in the corner.
My name is Abdulaziz, a lawyer. I would like to ask, underlining African Union troops are in Somalia, will you ask the government of the United Kingdom to put pressure on Ethiopia to withdraw completely from Somalia and to respect our integrity as a nation and as a community?
Yes, I appeal. This is why I freeze my role at the TNG, which is missing from the TFG. That's why they're not successful in Mogadishu, the government, the President, the Prime Minister. The withdrawal of Ethiopia is very important, but you do not want to have void. So the African Union's 8,000 must come in, and the 1,500 must do their job to secure the capital. Ethiopia first withdraw the capital to allow the external stakeholders to come in, to come up at the end of the peace process, all-inclusive power sharing, and the direction the country will head. Agree the blueprint, new blueprint. with the old blueprint transition to a new, then the international community need the UN especially to take its role, because it's the UN at the end of the day. Resolution 1725, 1744, both of them stipulate only AMISOM have non-neighboring country can come to Somalia. Article 4 of Resolution 1725 says very clearly, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Yemen, who are our seed, they cannot be part of the peacekeeping force because there is conflict of interest. And this is normal, the same way Iraq, Iran, Syria, Saudi Arabia cannot come in. There will be a problem, complications. The same way any country peacekeeping neighbors, usually the UN is part of the articles. So Ethiopia came in at their own to help, and that help ended, they must leave the country and allow the Somalis to solve the problem. So I'm appealing to the UK, which is part of the contact group, the responsible solution. So the contact group is the main component now, determining the solving of the stakeholders' problem and the government.
Lady over there in the back.
I'm Chiyuki Kozuka. I'm originally from Japan, but currently I'm doing PhD study at the University of London. I was stationed in Addis Ababa in the last 2 years, actually, to work for the Embassy of Japan over there. And I had a chance to observe the parliamentary discussion when they decided to make a military intervention to Somalia. And I still remember the Prime Minister mentioned Eritrea to justify its intervention, because Eritrea was reported to provide military assistance with Islamic Courts. That's one of the main reasons that the Prime Minister came to decide to make a military intervention to Somalia. And now you're based in Eritrea at the moment.
No, I'm not based. I'm not based in Eritrea.
Oh.
The parliament is based, the free parliament.
Okay.
Members parliament who oppose Ethiopian presence.
But have you been there since April?
I was there.
Let's just clarify.
I went there, but I'm not based. I came from my base now was in UAE.
Okay. So if you can elaborate
Yes.
that sort of situation.
I intervened in the situation. Yes.
What's the implication of this situation to future regional stability, if you can elaborate?
I mean, the reporting has been, because I've read the same things, and if you can
clarify.
correct it or clarify.
I'm the Deputy Prime Minister of the government. My position went to Eritrea was independent. I can go to Mogadishu, I can go anywhere I want, I have no problem with that. But the members of parliament who came to Eritrea were told by Kenyan government, they were staying originally in Kenya, after they left from Baidoa, the Kenya ejected them. So Eritrea allowed them to come, a safe haven, to stay, including the ICU leaders. The problem of Ethiopia and Eritrea should not overspill the proxy war, quote unquote, will not help the situation. And that's why we need a very clear, very serious, our leadership in the TFG, to be very clear, because what I have done, the President and Prime Minister are supposed to do a long time ago. The Eritrea must be clearly engaged as an IGAD member state to explain that the war or the difference they have with Ethiopia should not interfere the internal affairs of both countries. And this is the message which President Afwerki agreed, and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia also. That's what we delivered to him, and we continue to deliver until they understand that proxy war will only destroy the very fragile peace institution building in Somalia. So both of them need to refrain and allow the stakeholders to come in the negotiation table. That's why President of Eritrea came to Brussels, came to UAE, said, I will not support the Muqawima assistance, but I want Ethiopia to do the same. Part of the TFG, they should not give ammunition and equipment. You understand? So both of them have to do it the same. One is already invading and killing Somalis, one is not. So if Eritrea now has the higher ground, because it helped on the political leaders and it refrained from interfering in the Somali affairs in the sense militarily. They did not send their troops to Somalia. They have the capacity to do it, but they didn't do it. This is important for Somali conflict, because one group supported by a neighboring country is creating more conflict. It's not solving the problem.
Take somebody else in the back. Gentleman in the back, the last. Well, yeah.
Mr. Aideed.
Sorry, who are you?
Ahmed.
Yes.
Sule.
Yes.
Mr. Aideed, do you have a control of your former militia? And if you have your control of your former militia or your original militia, is it possible that there are part of the problem in Mogadishu right now, could they be used by the current government, to fight against the armed people? Like, could they be part of those people going to Kismayo? Thank you.
As I have signed in before I became a member of parliament, all the 275 members who were invited as head of delegation, the peace process, their equipment and their area of control, they had to turn it over. It was precondition of the peace process. I told you, so far, I am the only one who turned over all his ammunition, its equipment, its artillery, and the land which I was controlling to the government and to the AMISOM and to the UN. Clear? So they joined the police, you see, the army, you see, are my former militia, who has been retrained, including yesterday the vice defense minister was in Mudu. They are part and parcel of they're waiting the AMISOM and UN to retrain. So I've done this before anybody because we have a bigger role to play. How the president will trust me to come to Mogadishu if I am guarding him with my militia. So I have to do before the president come, before the government relocated. So because I'm in the capital, I'm controlling the capital. So this precondition I told you, without no precondition, I have done that before 2003 as a non-state actor. I went to the convention in Geneva, first non-state actor invited to turn over 3,500 mines. I did voluntarily. So there will not be any more delivery of mines to Somalia in the future governments. And as official Deputy Prime Minister, I sign in to have the convention. So we do not want, problem of Somalia is not the military equipment. There is enough, more than 3 billion worth of military aid we have received. We have enough to fight next wars. Do you understand? We are number 3 in Africa. We provided, trained South Africa, 66 countries, including Ethiopia and Eritrea, come from Somalia, the current leaders. So Somalia, the problem is not military. Problem is institution, democracy, peace building, re-institution. That's why we are telling our brothers Ethiopia, please take it out your army. Let the UN, like Rwanda, like Congo, like Burundi, like Liberia, rebuild. The British Army helped build Liberia, Minister of Interior, which we were at the African Union, 15,000 police, 10,000 army. This government has helped. And they're doing the work in Liberia. In Rwanda, in Burundi, 4 African countries are stable, and democracy is going. In Congo, why Somalia does not have? Because Ethiopia is blocking. We need Ethiopia to leave, give the institution, let the UN and the African Union and European Union help us to build a formidable security component that can control the airports and ports and the democracy in Somalia.
And the lady over there, please.
Hello, my name is Suad Odawa, and I am a civil society originally from Somaliland. I think there has been so many reconciliation meetings in foreign countries.
Correct.
Is it about time that you solve your problem in your own homeland? Because if you ask the UN or whoever, any foreign countries, they will have their own interests.
So aren't you making the same mistake over and over for the past 16 years? Isn't it a good idea that if you are having a problem, to solve your own problem, your own homeland with your own people, rather than people dictating the agenda and what you talk about and things like that? Because you have already mentioned how Ethiopia is interfering how to reconciliate and talk to people. So I think you should learn from your mistakes. But in your opinion, why are you still hang on about having meeting in Mecca or London or whatever? Why can't you have a meeting in Somalia? Because that's where the problem is. Thank you.
This is a very good question. I support insight, but in democracy, you have leaders and civil society members who do not feel safe enough their clans to provide enough security in Mogadishu, for example. And they will say we cannot go to reconciliation in Mogadishu because Ethiopia is there supporting one group against another, or they will come up all these excuses. So the cessation hostility agreement signature, everybody to stop insurgency, Ethiopia to move out, it requires a synchronization. One time it must happen, and we did before this. If you do not achieve this, and the sub-clans are not comfortable with it, the insurgency will continue, or somebody will bomb the conference, like it happened yesterday, like it happened last week when the president tried to open it. So what you need is the stakeholders must, before the conference you open, agree. Remember in Nairobi, first thing we have negotiated was cessation hostility under President Moi. In 27th of October, the conference opened 15th of October. November 27, everybody signed in. While they are in the peace process, they cannot order their militia to fight. And monitoring group from IGAD went to verify who violated. There was a conflict in Puntland, President Yusuf and another president. I was a party chairman at that time. We told President Yusuf, resign from your job. And they elected another president. And the other president who was fighting is a member of parliament. Now is Jama al-Jama. Under IGAD, Morgan attacked, while he signed the peace process, he attacked Kismayo. He was taken by IGAD, and the war crime was supposed to be given. Then he said, no, I will never go, I go to Mogadishu. That's why he's in Mogadishu. So what we need is enforcing mechanism at the international level, the individual leader who breaks the peace process. But now what we have a problem is the IGAD peace process was managed our neighbors. So they blocked the weapons in Somalia do not have the factions only. The businessmen have to control their business. They have more weapons than, I would say, 50% of the factions. Just businessmen. One businessman has 4,000 troops alone. 26 of them were called the IGAD in Djibouti. And they sign in that their weapons and equipment will be turned over. So you have a lot of businessmen who are armed. And they can, that's why I said, if we do not negotiate, because I have that experience, I lived in Mogadishu. My father died. I know the details as a professional last 11 years. As a president, you negotiate. If you do not negotiate, one small group can destroy the conference you're trying to hold in the capital. They can assassinate the president, prime minister. And that's the history we had. That's why reconciliation is serious, it must be, and everybody must feel unthreatened. So to bring this ICU, which were defeated, they will not accept the Ethiopian presence and our army, and, which is those who joined the peace process in Nairobi, to guard them, to come back from outside and guard them. They will not accept. In order to come on board and stop their insurgency, we need a neutral force. Ethiopians want to withdraw Mogadishu, they will accept maybe UN. That's why we are negotiating now. so the conference will be successful in Mogadishu. I agree with you. As far as I know, the government I was president was more stronger because the conference after UNISOM left was held in Mogadishu, inside Somalia. The Puntland administration came in from inside conference in Puntland. The Somaliland administration conference inside. The outside conference is superficial, I agree with you. That's why too much interference in Nairobi happened. What we need is our elders, our people to be transparent, but Mogadishu must be a safe haven. The same safe haven, the Shia and the Sunni were provided by US forces in Iraq to elect a government. Do you understand? So that external neutral force we needed that will not interfere, but will observe the agreement and implement, and stop the neighboring agenda which they have, which is happening now.
Well, certainly there are a lot of arms. Yeah, gentleman in the front.
Thank you. My name is Rashid Ali. I'm an architect. I live in London. Unfortunately, I don't share your optimism about Somalia solving their problems anytime in the near future, simply because it's just gone on for so long, and also all the key players involved in the negotiating table, or all the people that want to run the country, associated with the recent history, at least in the last 15 years, which is really, very tragic. And what I wanted to ask essentially was, what's being done, what's being done to get young, educated people in the diaspora who put so much money into the country to become engaged in the running of the country, because simply they probably don't kind of think along clan lines, which most of the people do, unfortunately.
A good example, I lived in diaspora 17 years myself. Somalia, the young can build better and welcomed, but it depends the vision of the individual it has for his country and the sacrifice he's ready to make. I was making as an engineer in Los Angeles County, good life. I sacrificed last 11 years. Are you willing, the Somali young people in here, London, to resign their jobs, their nice car, nice house, and get into and work with a nation which collapsed, which has many intrinsities, and without salary, without money, you are being with your people. So it requires a sacrifice. And that sacrifice, the members of parliament are doing it without salary, they are working. As a deputy prime minister, one day I did not receive $1. I'm working more than 2 years and a half. Same thing, president did not receive. So all of us, prime minister, did not receive money. There was stipend from UK, I believe, and taxpayers from UK, Sweden, $900 in Baidoa. Stipend. 3 countries from European Union. Majority was here from UK. But what we need is to use resources to create taxes, like the port of Mogadishu, the airport of Mogadishu, businessman. The institution building is very essential, especially district, local elections, like Baidoa we did it. Now it's running very well. Like Somaliland administration is going on. Or expand the regional district and collect taxes. The state of Somalia, from 1960 till now, there was never a taxation. The ideology of socialism, the Russia and Warsaw Pact was giving money to the dictator. What we need is money coming from our people. And that capacity we have when there is a peace, when there is an institution. That's why I'm saying I'm supporting everything. I'm ready, including my position to leave. But my precondition to IGAD, to international community, to Somalis was, we must have at the end of the day an institution. And now that institution has been threatened by the occupation of Ethiopia. We are going back to what we passed 11 years ago. And it's very dangerous going back for civilization. Because there is enough guns on the ground, enough, more than 3.5 million Somalis have the AK-47. Once they get together, who can stop? There is no force. I was with John Johnston and we knew we couldn't stop it. And I know it will take a matter of time. Ethiopians cannot stop. And there are 6 million Somalis across the border. And already Zone 5 is out of control of Ethiopia. They cannot fly, they cannot drive. Just because they went to Somalia, there is a reaction inside Ethiopia. There is a war with Eritrea. So Ethiopia is more threatened than us. And the UN forces between Ethiopia and Eritrea, they are leaving next month. So the situation is very fragile. We have to seriously engage the Somali, solve the actors to come. That's why I'm saying come quickly. The leaders which IGAD, neighboring countries, did not invite the businessman to participate to sign the cessation hostility. They did not also invite the ICU. They knew the existence. The Sharia courts were there with their weapons. The Islamist factions were there historically. So what we need is these two groups to sign like we did and join in the parliament and the cabinet and start giving chance this country to come about 2009 election and so on. So we have to sacrifice. Without sacrifice, there will not be Somalia.
Okay, well, if we make it quick, we've got a couple of questions left, so... okay, over there.
Hello, my name is Abdurrahman Maalim, and I'm just a Somali citizen who's just concerned for a lot of things back home. And I have a problem with the Somali leaders' credibilities because we have the 270 members in the parliament, which are the least dedicated, and they're like the worst leader, the president, which I do believe personally. My question is, I was back in Thailand and Malaysia through Japan, and I have seen our Somali minister just signing for the fisher in Somalis. Every leader who comes in, he signs the natural resources of the country without giving any concern of the society. I've seen contractors in Malaysia, Thailand, which Hussein, believe you me, the question I have for you is, will you be ready for credibility? If you ever held position in Somalia, will you restore credibility for that oil, the natural resource in that country?
That is why I worked very hard to bring the leaders together who before I born collided. President Yusuf, it is me who brought him. He walked out when I resigned in Cairo alone. He created Puntland and he went back to Ethiopia. And he destroyed his own people. I said, no, I will come and give you my bed in Villa Somalia, but we must have peace. Because he was the 12 founders, he's the only one remained alive. And Ali Samatar was in exile, and another man. The 12 top officers under protectorship under the UN. First police commanders, academy in Modena, Italy. What I want is basically, if we do not negotiate, you must understand the top leadership and this conflict, repair it, you cannot solve the aspirations as young generations we have for new Somalia. You have to first heal the old Somalia. Ali Mahdi, I went, I resigned, Zobe, Muhammad Abshirha, all 26 leaders. I said, I don't want president. They said, all of them, they want president. Come become 13 presidents, I thought. Look at the charter in front of the Cairo. They are older than me, they're more experienced, and at the minimum, they have relation international. Zobe was a minister before I born, Minister of Interior, first democratic government in Somalia in 1960. So those kind of leaders, I brought them, I said, instead of sitting at Addis Ababa, come to Mogadishu, solve the problem of your people. They did. And Ali Mahdi, that's why he's worked with us in the peace in Mogadishu. We united the Green Line. He was controlling North. Remember, UNISOM spent 7 billion. They could not remove the Green Line in Mogadishu. We united. But the leaders must have sacrifices. So President Yusuf, if he cannot, for next few months, cannot solve the problem in Mogadishu and the peace process, he must resign. I must resign if I cannot be Deputy Prime Minister for Security and Political. If my police cannot have the training and the equipment and the criminals to be put in jail. I cannot claim I'm a Deputy Prime Minister or Minister. The institution requires every minister to be transparent, good governance, 8 principles is a requirement. That's why the budget for our cabinet was not released. The European Union said without the Prime Minister and the cabinet being transparent, we will not give you $1. We passed the budget, but the European Union refused to put it because there was no transparency. You got it? So already that requirement is not only us, it's all Africa. Many countries are not receiving European aid because there is a requirement of the European Union. So what we need is that, to go to the conference, bring the ICU problem solved, remove Ethiopia and guarantee there will not be insurgents going from their border. We have to guarantee it. Elders, diaspora, businessmen agree this point. But if Ethiopia feels uncomfortable, they will bring their military.
Okay, last question,
So we have to guarantee the 2000 border, there is no insurgency going and destabilizing their country. And they also have to guarantee that they will not kill one Somali and bring their army. We solve the problem, Islamists in Somalia, Somalis will solve. The Islamists or other problems, factions inside Ethiopia, they solve. There are 17 organizations fighting Ethiopia. 17 factions. None of them is now today in Somalia. We give base. They told us, please do not bring Oromo Liberation Front, the Amhara Liberation Front into Somalia. We applied, and we told all the factions, do not come to Somalia, go to either Europe or other countries where you are doing your work. Because we already have our own problems, bringing, reconstituting new Somalia. So the agenda is how to reconstitute Somalia, and until we solve that problem, we cannot afford to threaten our neighbors. We must have a very good relation, very transparent, and the mineral and the money use of the resources is what the state collapsed. So the new Somalis want how to use the resources. And that's why the Prime Minister, we were very clear at the Parliament, you must bring the law first. After that, the elected government will solve the problem. We cannot bring companies at this moment to, it's illegal. It's not, there is no, that minister who signed it does not bring any income to the central bank.
Right, it's 4,000 there is 4,000
the good governance will capture. The ship who took it, already the UN knows how many tons, where that certificate of the fish will be sold. Somalia was not issued its fish to be sold in European Union. European Union are blocking. So that's why pirates are captured Korean ships who are fishing in Somalia illegally. So whoever sign, whether it's a region, Somaliland cannot sign, Puntland cannot sign, it is not our job. When the permanent elected government come, we will deal with that.
My name is Gulaid. I would like to ask you, in early 90s, people of Somaliland have declared the independence of Somalia. Do you recognize them as such?
I don't have either to deny or to recognize. I'm an individual person. As a leader, Somaliland, we have signed their lead, my father actually, not me, in Derdawe. We signed the SNM, which is the main party that time, liberated from the north. And my father signed in 1989, after removal of dictator, there will be discussion of federal. That agreement I saw it myself. And Foreign Minister Edna and the President Riale supported the peace process in Nairobi and said we are ready to deal when there is institution in the South Central, and we will negotiate. And I believe that historical role I have to play, that agreement, that there must be a guarantee for their federal, at least as my party. I am a responsibility I have on it. SBM also signed it, and they were the SNM. So the USC part, I have a historical role to the way I turned it over the State House and everything, to also solve the problem of Somaliland. That agreement, at least, I will bring to the conference when there is a negotiation, that they must have their federal, the 5 regions, Sol Sanag, Hargeisa, and Awal, and Bur'o. There are 5 regions, ex-Somaliland. So how that federal will be done, there is a Puntland-Somaliland annexation problem, nevertheless through negotiation also. And I believe it's the convention Somalis to decide to recognize referendum, what type we will have is the future.
The people of Somaliland choose not to go to the federal government.
Yes.
Will you bring them in?
If they have a referendum and the people of Somaliland democratically put the referendum, they want to become independent, like Eritrea left from the Ethiopian federal, we will give them. Huh? Yes, but we want a referendum of the 5 states, not part of the states. But I know the agreement was a federal. There was never independent state. The agreement signed by Abdurrahman Tour, late Abdurrahman Tour, who was the chairman of the SNA, and my father, before Siad Barre was removed, and the SPM JES, Ahmed Omar JES, it stipulates a federal state.
But that doesn't mean... Well, actually, can I just say...
no, I'm saying what I'm responsible, I'm telling you. I'm not talking about the people. I said what I am responsible as an individual. My party, what is signed, I have a responsibility as long as I'm alive to make sure I tell the truth about that document.
Can I just say, sir, I actually have, and I have been asked, can
Somaliland by force.
No, I never said, I do not believe force.
Okay, this is a sign of success, I take it. Do you want to, okay, let's do this for another 5 minutes because, I mean, there seems to be a big reaction to this. So we'll give it another 5.
Yes.
Sorry, you were saying in the back, and then...
What democracy will? Democracy will.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Ali Ahmed. I'm Somali but live in London. My question is, you mentioned Arab leagues and other groups and Europeans trying to basically to have some kind of peace arrangement with Somalis. Have you, basically Ethiopians are there with the blessing of Americans. Have you have any contact approach to United States of America regarding this issue, whether they will support any peace agreement within Sharia courts?
Yes, we had the discussions, and we are continuing to discuss. The stakeholders, the contact group, is U.S. is a member, full member, and as you know, the cessation of hostility agreement signed by the Somalis and the external actors, 35 IBF IGAD Partner Forum, is chaired by the Assistant Minister of Italy. Is the US, China, all the 5 Security Council members, permanent members, and the rest of the world, how to help Somalia. So that agreement we have, that they also do not provide any military or economic to Arab League countries, to any group in Somalia, until the state of Somalia comes back. African Union, same thing, have signed it in. So this is very important agreement. That's why Ethiopia violated this agreement. They signed cessation hostility. We implemented. They are bringing the weapons, creating factions. That's why we said Ethiopia, stop. We don't want that. Because you signed cessation hostility. It was a document in front of President Moi. We signed, the international community signed, and we signed it to stop the siding of Arab countries to certain factions and siding of Somali groups by European Union countries, and there was a mess in Somalia. That part of the collapse is created, or civil war was part of it. So Resolution 733, the UN has an embargo of economic, political and social study every 6 months, report to the Security Council. They monitor. I believe Mel Holt and Bruno from England are the main group, and one guy from Brazil, which I don't have his name. They are checking how many weapons are coming from the borders of Somalia, the sea, from 1992 till now. They are also checking the businesses, how much Somali diaspora is transferring money, is being used to conflict. How many companies, Somali companies, are involved in the dismantling of the state. So this resolution is very important, the 733 of 1992. The embargo is still continuing. Our government do not have the ability to go outside and request military aid from any country. So this is very essential because Somaliland still don't have the capacity to build their own military equipment, and we are now sitting the seat of Somalia. That's why we are being monitored very quickly until the final reconstitution of Somalia occurs and permanent elected government in place. Then we can, the state can do its role and become a responsible state which can control its borders and participate in the civilization and the stability in the region.
Mr. Aideed, thank you very much. I think I really have to end it here. You did, though, you said you came to London to speak to the diaspora, so yes. I hope there's so many hands in the air.
Yes.
I hope you'll give everybody some
yes.
time after we finish.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming, and you as well.